What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Jazzy Fridays. Next up, we have my favorite segment of the special show, Jazz Talk, where I interview local jazz musicians to get the real insight of jazz music. This week, we have one of my closest friends and, of course, my co-host, Elliott Lewis. Everyone, welcome Elliott Lewis.
How's it going?
He is a piano jazz enthusiast, as I would like to call him. Elliott, please tell them a little bit about yourself and your accomplishments in the music world.
Yeah, sure. As you mentioned, my name is Elliott. I'm a vocal music education major at West Texas A&M. Right now I'm in my sophomore year. I spend most of my time working with the WT choir programs. Right now I'm the president for our choir programs. We got 3 excellent choirs here at WT. We have the WT Chorale, the Collegiate Choir, and also the WT Chamber Singers. They do small ensemble music there. So yeah, we have all those 3 choirs. Right now I sing in the chorale, and I also take voice lessons. And then my secondary instrument, other than piano, I also play French horn. So I study with Dr. Manfredi and the WT French Horn Studio, also part of the French Horn Octet and French Horn Choir that we have at campus here. Yeah. So.
What's your involvement with jazz right now?
So right now, I have the radio show, doing the co-hosting for this. We kind of started last semester, right towards the end, just right before Christmas. And you just had this great idea. I remember you were like, hey, I got my own radio show. And I was like, really? And I knew that it was jazz, and I was like, okay, I gotta be on there. So ended up with a co-host job. Usually when you hang out with DJ Kev, those are the things that happen. You just get kind of roped into doing things that you never thought you would do.
Yep.
But yeah, this is a really good outlet for just listening to jazz music and talking about its importance for our world, because it is important music. Its background is important, and it's still very prevalent for today's issues. There will always be issues, but there will also always be music to help us deal with those issues and kind of express our opinions on that. And other than that, I also play jazz piano. I'm really big into improvisation and those skills. I like to do a lot of ear training. That's part of our music schooling as well, to kind of train our ear musically. But I like to take it just a step further, and when I'm playing piano, I challenge myself to not read sheet music as much as possible, and just to listen to the chord progressions and kind of, use what I'm given to then make some new melodies or new music. And right now I do have one album out called People I Met, and my friend Gideon Talley, he's in the music technology programs here at WT, also in choir with me. He helped me to record that. He's awesome. Like, you're like, hey, can I make it sound like this? He's like, yeah, sure. And then, he messes with all the software on his computer. I mean, he knows exactly what to do. He works hand in hand with you to, make your creative visions happen. And it's great. I mean, we made an album in one day.
That's incredible.
I mean, not even one day. I mean, it took a couple hours maybe, like 4 or 5 hours. So he was really helpful. So if you're trying to record your music, jazz or not, Gideon Talley in Canyon, Texas, he's great. And he's got a great studio that he uses to create music. So,
and where can people find your album? You never promoted your own album.
I know it's it's on everything. I guess most people are using Spotify now. Again, it's called People I Met. It might be under that artist name G1D if you're searching who it's by. But yeah, that is all my music, and Gideon Talley helped me to produce it. But yeah, it should be on everything. It's also on YouTube. If you don't use any of the other music streaming platforms, it's on YouTube. So,
okay, Elliott, how did you first start getting into jazz? I know jazz is a very, some people would say it's a kind of a dying genre. But how did you first get introduced to jazz, and what gravitated you towards the genre of jazz?
Yeah, so it was actually we have our West Texas A&M band camps in July every summer, and we have the music faculty and staff. They work with the band campers, and I listened to the jazz concerts that were done by like Dr. Barger and some of those professors that they do all the jazz. And so I listened to them play those live jazz concerts, and I just loved it. And my dad was actually the one who introduced me to John Coltrane for the first time, and it was In a Sentimental Mood. That was the first.
Okay.
It's one of the more popular John Coltrane songs, but that also had Duke Ellington playing piano on that track, and I listened to that. And from my hometown, College Station, to where West Texas A&M is located is about an 8-hour drive. So while I was in the car going to the university for band camp, I listened to jazz the entire way there. So that was kind of my introduction to all of it. And I just liked the freedom.
Yeah.
I was used to concert band music or choir music, and those are great, and I still love them. But they have a little bit more rules,
Yeah.
You can't get away with as much, And I'm someone who, obviously, I do follow the rules. You should all follow the rules, right? But musically, I kind of like to, explore.
Yeah.
Different,
of course.
different things, whether it be, what time signature I'm playing in, or hey, what is the craziest chord that I could possibly play that still sounds like like somewhat decent, I find that very amusing and very entertaining to kind of see what's the edge of musical journeys that I can go on. How much can I push it before it's like, okay, this is not good, go back to the drawing board, start again.
So you would say your love for jazz is a little bit more recent, and you're closer to the age you are right now.
Yeah, I'd say probably when I was about 15 or 16, that's really when it started to take off. It's been about 6 years that I've been listening to jazz and playing jazz. I played jazz trumpet in high school for some of our jazz ensembles as well. I haven't played trumpet in probably like a year. But yeah, I did play jazz trumpet for a little bit, but then I really found that I just like playing piano. So
Yeah. And then, so I know you were saying you kind of differentiate between jazz band and concert band. And I know one of the things you said, it was freedom. But how do you, do you find yourself in a different headspace when you're playing these two different genres? If so, what's the difference between them two?
I think when you're in concert band, you have, if you're a WT, you have Dr. Tevlite or Dr. Lefevre that are working with you, or Mr. Lefevre, excuse me. And they are both fantastic directors. And band directors do a really great job in high school and at the college level. And they work with their bands to get the meaning that the composer of their pieces had intended, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of rehearsal, right? You're trying to convey the message that the composer had originally written that piece for. But when you're doing jazz, you kind of take on more of a personal meaning. You know? Not saying that you can't when you're in concert band, but I feel like even more so, there's just a really personal message and something to take to heart when you're playing jazz. And it can be different for everybody.
Yeah.
For me, it is kind of cliche that jazz music makes me so relaxed, or it makes me fall asleep.
Yeah.
But it kind of does sometimes. If you're listening to a ballad, a jazz ballad will, kind of make you sleepy, but it also makes you relaxed. And, we live in a very high stress world. So sometimes it is good to just kind of relax and, go for a drive, listen to jazz music, just reflect, be with your thoughts, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's good for your mental health in that way. But then the other thing is, it fulfills your crazy side a little bit, of wanting to, the artistry, that side is fulfilled as well with jazz, because you are like I said earlier, really pushing the limit of what you can do musically or what an instrument can do.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes when the pros are playing, it's like, I didn't even know an alto saxophone could sound like that. You know, like,
Yeah.
But the only way you find that out is just by, experimenting all the time. So that's different than concert band. You can't experiment like that, or else you'll get called out in the middle of rehearsal, So, yeah.
Is there any big jazz inspirations that you have currently?
I'd like to do another album.
Yeah.
Another jazz record would be nice. Probably just with piano. And then I'd also like to maybe do some live music in the Amarillo area. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
To just get a group together and just play. And that's another thing, going back to the concert band versus jazz music or jazz ensemble, is jazz really is as simple as just getting some friends together and playing. You can't do that with concert band. Concert band's like, I need an oboe player. I need a bassoon player.
Yeah, exactly.
I need, and you're just like going through trying to make sure that you have this whole ensemble filled each and every spot, or else it won't sound right. But, with jazz, it can literally be as simple as we have drum set, we have a bass player, and we have piano.
Yeah, that's all you need. That's all you need.
Or we have piano and we have trumpet, or we have piano and we have saxophone. You don't need all of these instruments. It's good if you do, but whether you're doing a big band or you're just playing a trio, doesn't matter. So.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite jazz artists of all time?
Ornette Coleman.
Yeah.
Is really good. And also Sonny Rollins. And the reason I say them is because, there's a lot of great saxophone players, but I look at saxophone players that really inspired others. I'd also throw Charlie Parker in there. All these people really inspired and still inspire musicians today. I also really like Bill Evans. As a piano player, I like Bill Evans.
Of course, yeah.
And I like Oscar Peterson, also another jazz piano player. But yeah, those are some of my favorites. But yeah, there are some pioneers of that jazz genre and different styles within it. You got big band.
Yep.
And then you've also got a lot of the jazz quintets, and then you got modern jazz. You look at like Chet Baker.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, this is one of my favorite questions I recently found recently. If you could take the playing ability or the composition ability of any jazz artist ever, who would it be?
That is a really good question.
Playing ability or writing ability?
I think I would take the writing ability of Duke Ellington.
How come?
He just has these great arrangements. Like Take the A Train,
Yeah.
Like to be able to think something like that up, like that's just crazy to me. I mean, never in my wildest dreams could I have, conjured up melodies like that. Or, people also do arrangements of a lot of his stuff. And the reason that people can do so many arrangements is because the original is so fantastic,
Yeah.
That makes it easier to do arrangements when the original is great and easy to maneuver through. So, yeah, but I would definitely take his writing ability.
Okay.
Because his writing inspired a lot of what we see, moving forward in jazz music. So
yeah. Okay. One of the other segments I like to have is this jazz or not? I know I tried it with you last semester and I really enjoyed it. First of all, I know you had strong opinions about this. Is Frank Sinatra jazz or not?
I think that Frank Sinatra is a really good big band vocalist.
Okay.
And his bands that accompany his singing, those are good jazz musicians. Like the trumpet players, those are awesome jazz musicians. Frank Sinatra himself, though, he really is just a great vocalist.
Okay.
Someone who I would say is a jazz singer who has a similar timbre in the voice to Frank Sinatra is Johnny Hartman.
Okay.
And he did a record with John Coltrane called John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman. It's a very basic name. But that is a fantastic jazz record, and that's real jazz singing right there.
Okay. I know last semester when we had this conversation, there is the band event going on. They're listening to Jazzy Fridays. And I know when I went back in there, everyone really disagreed on you about Frank Sinatra being a jazz musician. Like, some standouts was Isaiah, future guest of the show, and Dylan Martin, future guest of the show.
Uh-huh.
They both were like, Elliott is tripping. Like, Frank Sinatra is jazz. Like, they think it, but
he might have one or two.
Okay.
That I could definitely make the case for.
Okay.
I just think that you know, I don't think his passion was really jazz music. I think it was the big bands. You know? So if you are saying, is he a big band jazz musician, I'm more likely to say yes. But, you know, compared to like other jazz musicians, I just don't really see that you know, case being made there. So
okay. Next one is Leve. Is Leve jazz?
I would say yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And more so in the like bossa nova. It kind of pulls from that a lot, like inspiration wise. But also her covers of different songs, the arrangements of them are very jazzy, and she does more of like the scat soloing and a little bit more improv, especially in her live performances. And you know, that's something, going back to Frank Sinatra, he could not have done that. The improv singing or the scat singing, he just couldn't do it. Because he probably just wasn't trained to do it. You know, I dare say he didn't even read music. I think he was just, he had a really good ear, and he just picked up tunes that he had heard before. Or he had people that could write songs for him, and he could sing, you know, really well on those tracks. But, you know, like someone like Leve, she's doing a lot of that stuff herself, and I think she's an excellent jazz musician because she has the ability to, you know, do the improv singing or do the scat solos.
Yeah. So. Next up is movie soundtrack jazz, real jazz.
Okay. I think...
Because the way I think about it is, so as me being an avid filmmaker or being wanting to be a film director, I know they film or they record jazz charts for these songs very not really in the normal sense. They kind of separate all of them into a different room, and you can't really hear each other. You just hear each other through a headset, I guess. So would you consider that jazz?
You're saying for like just hearing it through the headset?
Well, yeah, since they're like not really next to each other, they're kind of just hearing like I don't know how to explain it, a virtual audio of all of them. Well, would you consider it jazz?
I think I would still consider it jazz. Yeah. I would definitely still consider it jazz because, you know, even though they are kind of recording it in separate headsets, they are still probably looking at the bigger picture. You know, they'll probably do a take on their own and then go back and listen to it and what it sounds like together, and then, you know, they'll change the levels that they're recording at, or they'll say, hey, can you know, change the way that you're playing this a little bit. So
next up is I know people have been talking about this recently. Do you think video game jazz is real jazz? So like a very standout one I get, which is I've been suggested to add Mario Kart music into Jazzy Friday playlist because they said it's very jazzy, and I agree. Like I've seen a video before where people implement Mario Kart licks into their solos that they actually play, but then that's also kind of the same thing. But then also a little bit difference between the movie soundtrack music is that a lot of the video game stuff is a lot more electronic. So like fake instruments. So what's your take on that?
I think 100% yes, video game music can be jazz music. So like we talked about Mario Kart and that kind of thing, for example. That is what I would call jazz fusion, where it's more electric and also combines a little bit of like kind kind of like rock and roll with jazz. But it works really, really well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that you like the Mario Kart music.
Yeah.
I mean, jazz fusion is very catchy, and it's more modern. I think it does something for our modern ears that we enjoy. So yeah, I really like the jazz fusion stuff that goes on in games like that.
Yeah.
But then also, there's lots of games that kind of have that. I think there was a Call of Duty game. It was the Shadows of Evil.
Okay.
You know that? It was like...
I see.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
And in that soundtrack for that has a lot of jazz music.
Yeah.
And it also has some jazz vocals in it. So yeah, and actually my brother, he is an artist.
Yeah.
And he does some stuff for video game industry. And this is something that we've talked about a lot, you know, video game music and video game like storytelling and narratives. Mm-hmm. It's going to catch up to movies.
Yeah.
It really is. And it might even overtake it here in the next couple of years, just because that seems to be what is trendy right now.
Yeah.
I think video games is starting to rise in its popularity.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but also a little bit different thing about video game music, especially Nintendo, they have a whole science behind this music. So the music they make is like to hit certain things in your brain to like kind of get more immersed into the music. So it's a lot more, it's more of a science, really, because you know there's a reason why people like to study to video game music, because it kind of adds almost like an adrenaline, a fake adrenaline into your system.
Sort of like an ambience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like a weird science. That's why I kind of differentiate video game jazz than to real jazz, because video game jazz is like all made to a T to hit a certain like neuron in your brain to make you feel these things.
Yeah, I definitely see that side of things, like in some of the, I think it's like Super Mario 64, like those underwater levels in the video game. It's levels like that, I think, that, you know, I definitely see what you're talking about, of like you would put it on to study or, you know, fall asleep or that kind of thing, or just to relax. So I definitely see that. But I think that, you know, the way that it makes you feel when you listen to it, a lot of that probably comes from studies of like what chord progressions you're using. You know, there's a reason that a lot of people like pop music, and it's because it uses a lot of the same chord progressions that people really like. Yeah. So, you know, artists keep on using them over and over and over again. Even the ones that don't even understand that that's the progression they're using, that's what they're using, you know? Yeah. So I think video game music kind of does the same thing with that.
And then lastly, I know there's a lot of concert band music that sounds very jazzy. Would you consider it jazz music?
It kind of depends on the piece. So with the symphonic band, last school year, we played a concerto for wind ensemble by Kevin Day, and I would say that that is jazz because of the solos that are in it. They are written with that jazz style, the style markings, and you know, things like the accents on the notes. All of those line up with the style that you would play most jazz charts with. And also the chords. Some of those chords took forever to tune in our rehearsals. And that's because, you know, it wasn't your C major chord, right? It wasn't going to lock in like that. It really did take a lot of ear training. And also, you know, we had to bend the pitch of our notes. So, you know, with brass players, for example, we have our embouchure, right? And we can either lip notes up or we can lip them down, right? Using all of our, you know, facial muscles and our air and that kind of thing. Everything that goes into the embouchure. So on that piece, there were some chords where it was like, hey, we need you to lower this note by this amount of, you know, cents. And, you know, get the pitch to this so that it locks in. And that kind of depended on what note in the chord that you had. So we spent a lot of time on that. You have to do that more with jazz music because the chords are so dense and they're so complex. and they kind of clash. Very dissonant notes sometimes. So yeah.
Because I know a lot of people when the band director mentions, "Oh, we're playing a Latin piece," they kind of just assume jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Sometimes it's not really jazz. Like the Kevin Day you were talking about, that's very jazzy. I mean, the lick is in there.
Yeah.
Like this one right here. Hold on. Like that's in the piece because he made it in the mind of wanting, I guess, jazz musicians to play certain parts. Because not everyone in symphonic band is a jazz musician. But I feel like most of the people that had the solos were jazz musicians.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like most of the saxophone section, amazing jazz players.
Yeah, and they did fantastic.
Like,
I mean, every time we performed it was right on the money.
Like who was it? Maxwell Gray.
Yeah.
Recently, I think he's student teaching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing jazz player. Well, actually, he's an amazing sax and trumpet jazz player.
Mm-hmm. Carter had a solo.
Amazing Barry sax player.
Yeah.
Who else do we have? Joe?
Yeah. Well, there was a quartet to start one of the movements.
Yes, that's right.
And that had 4 of our saxophone players on it,
and they were all really jazz gifted.
Yes, they were, and their tuning was amazing.
Yes.
I mean, it was right on point.
Very talented saxophone musicians.
Yeah, I mean, it was great, and it locked in every time. Mm-hmm. Even at Team EA, when we had who knows how many people watching us at that music hall in San Antonio, and it was still great. So that was awesome. And honestly, the crowd reaction when you play something that is jazzy is 1,000% better than when you play, I mean, no shade, but if you were to play Mozart or, something that's more classical or, I don't know. The audience obviously would like it. They would get something out of it, but it just doesn't get them as hyped as when you play something that has the jazz chords in it.
Yeah, I think it's a better experience when you play something more jazzy like that in a band aspect, because obviously for jazz band it's encouraged to clap after every solo, and I guess people went in the thought process of being like, oh, this is a jazzy chart, should I get more excited? And they usually did. Mm-hmm. They usually did get excited, and it's a whole different kind of space where you perform when people are excited. So for a classical concert, it's all quiet, it's super encouraged for everyone to be quiet, no sound, no clapping, and during solos, not even clapping between movements. Mm-hmm. But I feel like pieces like that, it's almost an instinct from how many people really know about jazz to kind of just get really excited over a certain solo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's really cool, I think.
And the other thing is it's fun to perform jazz music like that in the concert band setting because it showcases your technicality.
Yeah, exactly.
All of that time that you spend practicing scales and your articulation of a note, all these really mundane things at times. Mm. Well, then it comes into play when you have to play, 16th note jazz runs, and it's I don't even know where to start. But then, because of all of that technique and all that training and practicing that you've been doing, then it becomes really impressive, and you can speed it up, because most of the time that piece was going pretty fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some really hard music out there, but that's why we practice, so that we can play anything that we're challenged to play. Anything that gets put in front of us, we know how to learn that music, and we know how to perform it well. So
yeah, Elliott, if you had any advice to give to up and coming jazz musicians, what would it be?
I would say, just keep being inspired. If you listen to one player and you like the way they sound, well, who did they get it from? Go listen to who inspired them, and you just keep going down, and also don't limit yourself to listening to, one style of jazz. There's lots of different styles. We talked about big band, we talked about bossa nova, more the Latin side of jazz, all that stuff. So, and there's also, there's vocal jazz. And there's people who bring it together, like Chet Baker.
Yeah.
On a lot of his records, he plays trumpet and he also sings. And So I would just listen to all kinds of jazz music and just be inspired.
Yeah.
And you know, don't think that, oh, I'm too young to be into jazz. That's for old people. I would actually argue it's not for just old people. You know, like when jazz music was at its height of popularity, it was young people that were performing it.
Yeah.
You know, and going out around town to see the live jazz performances and you know, to party and to have a good time with their friends. Okay, so it would be awesome to see that again. Live jazz music, people of all ages enjoying it and going out to see it. And it's supposed to bring people together.
Yeah.
Let us know what we have in common with one another, and it's supposed to be a positive thing. So.
Well, you actually answered my next question. My next question was going to be, what's your hope for jazz in the future?
Yeah. So I mean, did kind of explain it there. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I want it to be something that inspires us to have really good community with one another. And it's really easy to disagree with people. It's harder to agree. And it's harder to say, like, oh, I never heard it explained to me like that before. Or, oh, I didn't know that you had this experience that I didn't have. You know, that kind of changes my perspective on things, you know. And I feel like if we use jazz music as a tool to understand people, to have empathy, things that are lacking in our world right now and have always been lacking in our world, you know, I think that is really important, you know, saying, hey, this is my instrument, this is my music, I want to share something with you. Yeah. You know, let's have this moment of vulnerability and, you know, let's have this moment to connect with one another. Yeah. And that is the entire reason that I play music at all, not just jazz music, any music, is because it brings people together, and it's one of the few things that we can agree on. Everyone likes music, even if you're just, you know, driving down the road listening to some country music, you know, that is enjoyment of music. Yeah. You know, so everyone does like music, at least in some way. Yeah, so exactly. They may not even realize it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Elliott, for being this week's special guest on Jazzy Fridays.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being my co-host again. I hope everyone appreciates Elliott for taking time out of his week to come be my co-host, of course. And, of course, with any other guest in the future, taking time out of their day, even if it's just 30 minutes, it's a big commitment, kind of just having a set schedule to do something. So I just want to thank Elliott and, of course, future guests that come on Jazzy Fridays in the future. But as we wrap up, Elliott, what's a song recommendation you want to be played next?
Let's see. You know, I've been listening to Miles Davis again a lot recently, so let's go with the track Milestone by Miles Davis.
Sounds good. Okay, guys, thank you for listening to Jazz Talk. After this short little announcement, Milestones by Miles Davis will be next. Make sure to stay tuned. Me and Elliott will probably have a nice little lunch break and a nice little break, and we'll come talk once again with another new segment we have. So make sure to stay tuned. This is KWTS 91.1 FM, Jazzy Fridays.